Hello, my very, very dear Scorpios. I had the interesting experience of suddenly hearing the Ghostbusters theme as I was thinking about doing a reading today. And it was, of course, like, da 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 da. Who are you going to call? Ghostbusters. And then the phrase that came into my mind with such a deep feeling of relief was, what if you just allow for the possibility that every choice you've made has been the right one? What if you imagine that today everything you do is perfect? There's no need to worry about whether or not you're being productive today. That if you feel like sitting and doing nothing, or what feels to you like nothing, again, something maybe not productive, maybe taking a nap, maybe reading a book, maybe just, binge watching Survivor or something that is like what you might consider a guilty pleasure. What if you don't have to worry about whatever's coming in your life or what you're going to do next, because you're trusting that every choice you're making is perfect? And then I pulled your cards. The first card you get is choice. I love it. Then the next card is whatever you're going to engage in. In the next card, do it 100%, like do it big and with enthusiasm. And then the next card says, no more apologizing for yourself. So for me, this is just one of those beautiful readings that has evolved over the entire day. And for me, this is Spirit saying, Scorpio, my loves, you have worked hard and you have tried to figure out a lot of stuff. It's like the feeling that I'm getting with all of that, the Ghostbusters. Why Ghostbusters? It's because you're not letting the ghosts of choices you've made in the past haunt you. This is you saying, you know what? Whatever happened, maybe it was exactly the best possible thing I could have done, the best possible way I could have handled it. How about that? How about not having to me, the sorry, not sorry card, that makes a lot of sense in more ways than one. And I would interpret that within the context of this reading and this energy and what Spirit is giving me, is that you don't have to look back over the choices that you have made with this. It's very much, because of the Ghostbusters theme, I feel like this reading is really talking about your past and you not having to try to figure out the depths, the details, the nitty-gritty of what went on, what choice did you make, how did you say it, what could you have done differently? Because the reality is you did it. You really did it the best that you could. Otherwise, you would have been doing better. Now, what's fear? Fear is a prayer for what we don't want. So what you're being encouraged to do here is, again, within the context of this reading, it's not just fear as in, you don't have to fear the choices you made were wrong. You don't have to fear that the outcomes would have been better had you made a different choice. Okay? This is what it feels like to me. It's really saying, this is where you stop apologizing for clumsiness, insights, keeping people waiting, being in the way, not having the right answer, or the answer that other people wanted you to have, or needing help. What happens when you just say, what if everything just worked out the way it was supposed to? Even though there may have been chaos, trouble, pain, discomfort, whatever. What if there was no other way to do it that was better? What if I look at life like that? Now, in terms of your future, how is this helping them? Spirit is saying that this is helping you because you get to start now with a clean slate. That you're not now going to be checking your future choices based on things that you're still holding in question. Okay? This is about you moving into keeping a positive energy, positive triggers around you, and that you don't want the old ghosts coming back to haunt you and bring up old fears that were related to past choices or past events. This is good. Now, the other thing, when I was asking them earlier, why Ghostbusters, what makes that relevant? And it was interesting because I don't really remember the entire movie, but it seems to me that one of the relevant points is these people didn't really know what they were doing when they were ghost busting. They were kind of flying by the seat of their pants, and yet they still managed to save New York. Was it New York City? I think it was New York City, from this huge evil presence, right? So I want to look at that, and I want to say, oh, that's interesting. That card just fell out. Word fast. And that actually goes along with this, with choices. Ooh, I love this. That goes along with positive triggers. Sorry, not sorry. Okay, so what you're being told, Scorpio, is that you're being reminded that your ability to choose is how you shape your life. Choices are always being made. The choices that we make are affected by our past, but our relationship to our past. Okay? What we carry from our past in our minds, what we keep recreating through our thoughts. The past is done. It's only by repeating the memory of them in our head, through analyzing them, to try to understand them, to try to figure things out, that we perpetuate that as an energy that is current and consistent in our lives. That will then affect our body chemistry, our state of mind. It definitely affects our neural functioning, our neural pathways. And it's going to affect how we anticipate and depend upon the future. Because if we have something from the past that we're still bringing forward in regular thought, it acts like a filter through which now we perceive our future. So if there was a lot of self-doubt, a lot of confusion, a lot of fear around the choices that we made in the past, and that we feel somehow not confident that we made the right choices for us at the time, then we can carry that as kind of like a veil through which we're going to now anticipate our future. What Spirit is reminding you of is that, exactly that the ghosts from the past, they're the past. Don't bring them forward. Let them bust those ghosts. Don't let them be out in front of you where you are anticipating more of the same, or where you're anticipating your own failings. Okay, where your self-criticism and your self-assessment, your self-judgment is harsh and mean. Definitely, if there's something still to learn, then that's something to consider. However, what you need to be considering is, are you replaying it because there is more to learn? If there's no more to learn from it, if you haven't gained any, if there's no more information that is new to harvest from that situation, then let it go. If you need to have sincere regret, have sincere regret and let it go. Learn what you've learned, take from it. Now, this is very much about you being careful about how you speak to yourself. About how you will feel badly or not feel badly about your past, about how you will reinforce any negativity, or how you will speak well of yourself for having moved through and moved on and done what you could and learned what you did, for having survived. Because for a lot of people, for a lot of you Scorpios, it was just surviving. You, my dears, are in a place right now where you have the power to choose from a new place, from a new perspective of who you are and seeing yourself differently. And Spirit wants so much for you to embrace your spiritual essence that you sometimes lose track of because your personality can be super critical of yourself. And because your tendency to want to understand things so deeply and harvest as much information as you can out of it, you can stay locked sometimes in that mode of thinking from the past that carries it forward. Understand that when you get really focused like that, in a way where you are overanalyzing, that can be simply a quality of believing that you should have known more, believing that you should have been better. And that can go along with that kind of perfectionist quality. And that's part of it is because you are super intelligent and you are capable of achieving a lot. And you have probably been in many situations in your life where the external world really fed that back to you, where you're supposed to know. You should know better, right? Well, my gosh, when that happens at young enough an age, we believe that we should. And no, of course not. You're still growing. We are still growing. We still are growing. I still do things and say things that I go, oh, I should have known better. I go, no, okay, I didn't know that until that happened, until I said that or did that, and this was the result. And of course, now I can reflect on that and understand why. But I'm not going to beat myself up for learning new lessons. I'm not going to beat myself up for learning something now from stuff that happened 20 years ago. Because 20 years ago, Scorpio, you were a different person coming in with a whole different set of rules that you had inherited. Whether you had inherited it by virtue of your family, whether you had inherited it as an outcome of lessons that you learned perhaps harshly, or lessons that you didn't learn properly from. You learned, define properly from. That you may have learned lessons that were still based in the fact that it wasn't okay to make mistakes. And therefore, whatever lessons you learned from that came tinged with a sense of self-blame. Okay? So at the risk of going on for much longer, what I would like to do is say this to you, Scorpio. Spirit is saying you have the ability, you have the power to bust those ghosts from the past and prevent them from defining your future. You can choose to say, what if? And the key about that statement they were reminding me is, it's not just the affirmation, I've done everything right. No. It's what if I did? That is a lot more releasing than I did everything right. Because as soon as you say, I did everything right, it was perfect, I was fine, I did what I could. It's like, I did. I'm okay. It was good. Immediately now, whatever part of you is in there that is still not really sure that you deserve to be let off the hook, that's going to rear its head. The shift in energy can come for you in this, my dears, by saying, what if? What if all of that was just exactly right? When you say that to yourself, notice how your energy changes. The what if everything I'm doing today is fine? What if I don't have to worry about a cosmic plan for my life? What if just being content is my purpose this time around? What if? What if? And that is one of the ways you can release yourself from the ghosts of the past. You're also being told, again, the sorry, not sorry. Let that not sorry Be a phrase that comes in when you find yourself starting to be critical, self-critical. Watch the words that you're using when you do reflect back on things from the past. And speak kindly to yourself. Use words that are supportive, that are open, okay? And remember, keep yourself with positive triggers, surrounded by positive triggers. Because I feel, because of the way this is coming in, I feel like for some of you, this is really at a point where you're really coming to terms with some things from the past. So keeping positive triggers. Again, what are positive triggers? Positive triggers are things that lift your state of mind and your energy. So books, poems, movies, colors, scents, environments, positive memories, anything that lifts you and creates a sense of expansion as opposed to contraction, a kind of possibility rather than predictability, just that openness, okay? So I'm going to leave you with that, Scorpios. And again, this is theoretically for October 13th, for the week of October 13th, but you know, timelines, they're very like this. So whenever you get this and it resonates, and again, also Scorpio, Sun, Moon, Rising, or a lot of Scorpio in your chart, Spirit is really, really holding you in this. Holding you in this, reminding you, you have great power. It is in your choice. And what they're really asking you to do is bust those goats. Goats? Ghosts from the past. Leave the goats alone. We like goats. Okay? Take care.